because what happens is that a new connection fee point is struck each year based on the number of users in the system and the total cumulative capital and debt service costs. I would be more than happy to answer any questions. It's a relatively straightforward calculation that takes quite a bit of time digging through old records to come to it.
And I guess Mr. Califoot's recommendation is to adopt an ordinance establishing a water utility connection fee of $2,700 for new connections. And the sewer...
It's $4,000, it should be.
$4,000. Is it $4,000 flat? I'm sorry.
Yes, $4,000 flat.
$4,000 for each new connection.
Maybe I could, unless Councilwoman Tsukamoto, did you have?
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it all new connections, 2,700, regardless of whether or not it's residential or business? Or
That is correct.
And the size of the development?
If you have a development, each connection, if you have 100 homes, that's 100 new connections.
Okay.
And it does not take into account meter size.
If it's a commercial building?
Commercial or residential.
Okay, so if it's a commercial building, a new building at Gerardo Farms, that's 2,700.
No.
It depends on how many connections you have. If you have one water connection, it's one connection fee. If you have 100 connections, it's 100 connection fees.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cody.
I wanted to give a little overview. This is a charge that will not apply to existing property owners in Madison currently, and I think we need to say that. So if you have a home in Madison or a business in Madison that's existing, even if you're expanding it, modernizing it, increasing the square footage, you are not paying this charge. This is for basically the development of raw property in Madison, that everyone in this room who are taxpayers over the history of both utilities created that asset through their taxes. They built the sewer facility in Chatham, they built the water main replacement program, they built the pumping stations, and they paid to operate that over 100 years, each of those systems. In the past, and up to this point, anyone who has a vacant piece of land and decides to build a home without any fee now connects to that system that we have spent hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to create, the taxpayers of Madison, and there was no charge to join our system to say, I want to join your sewer system, I want to connect to your water system. No recognition of the prior historic costs. We're allowed by statute to create this fee for those new individuals who are now coming, I would say Johnny-come-latelys, that's bad with sewer, I guess, but who are now joining the system, and to recognize the historic contribution to create the asset. We're allowed by statute. We engaged Nisavacia to go back through the historic records back to the 1800s. I think we went back to 1891.
1898 for the water and 1912 for the sewer.
And then computed statutorily the formula to what the fee would be based on equivalent dwelling unit connections, and that's your point, Jeannie. And there's allowance here that if there's equivalent dwelling based on gallonage, that a larger building would pay more than that one charge based on the gallonage that they would generate for water or sewage. So if Drew, for example, built a dormitory, I hate to pick on Drew, and had 100 units, it would be the equivalent use of those 100 units. It wouldn't be just one charge. So they would pay a larger fee than someone building a one-family home. In your packet is a survey, basically every town in Morris County. There's 39 towns. We're basically the only one that doesn't charge this fee, and our proposed fees, even given the statutory formula, which we follow to the T through our auditor, is low compared to the other 38 fees. It's very low because right now we don't charge anything, but now we will establish, hopefully with your help, a fee for both of these charges, and it's a fair way, again, of allocating the cost of operating our facilities to the people who get a special benefit and a use of that product that they didn't create. They're now paying a fee to join.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience have a question regarding this? Okay. If you would continue, please.
Okay. I was asked to discuss the 2008 audit, which was delivered, I believe, a week or so ago. There are some recommendations that need to be addressed, dealing primarily with what we affectionately call in the auditing business segregation of duties, and some recording problems with receipts in outside departments. You are required to file a corrective action plan, which I'm sure is being undertaken. I spoke with Mr. Califoot prior to this meeting. He is currently addressing the segregation of duties problems. These are items that, yes, they need to be addressed, and no, it's not something you should go screaming in the night worrying about. All towns have problems. But I'm confident that your administration will adequately address these in the coming months. Other than that, it's a big fancy book with a lot of documents that nobody ever reads except auditors.
I did.
Did you read it? God bless.
I got it all marked. There's a lot of things for a lot of action coming up in the next year. So.
Well, there are items that need to be addressed. Are there any questions with regard to the audit? As always, and some of you well know, that if there are questions that come up throughout the year, just pick up the phone and call me and we'll discuss it, or come down and meet and get your questions answered. So it doesn't have to wait for a formal meeting.
The council will be asked this evening, mayor and council, to adopt a resolution stating that at the minimum, we've read the general comments and recommendations, some of which Mr. Evans has alluded to of this audit. And I hope everyone is fine with that.
It's not included here, right? So we need to do one for next time?
No. It'll be listed at the next meeting.
Right, okay.
Which gives you extra time to read the rest of the audit. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to be heard? Mr. Stevenson, you have a question?
Quick question for Mr. Evans. Yes, sir. About the last 2 years, this is about your audit report. What was cash on hand as of December 31st, 2008?
$40,945,000.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Any questions?
I have a question about the $40 million. Is that money sitting in the bank? It's just sitting there.
It's been invested in interest-bearing instruments.
So interested again.
Your CFO is sitting right to your right. He can probably give you that information as
We would get market value, which, as you know, in the last 2 years, the Federal Reserve has been significantly reducing.
We're talking 2%.
We're talking between 1.75 and 3.53%.
That's better than a quarter of this money.
Mr. Links?
Yes, of that $40 million, how much is encumbered?
I think you need to come up to the microphone and ask the question.
I'm sorry.
That's quite right.
Of the $40 million plus, how much is it encumbered? How much of it is encumbered?
I prepared a schedule. Was that distributed, right, to the council?
No, I have it with me this afternoon. Marilyn, you can send that around.
I prepared a schedule as of April 24th, 2009 to address that question. And I looked at the funds for the completion of the Dodge Memorial, the payment of the fire trucks, our relocation, payment to Liberty Mutual, 2009 capital projects, and all the funds that were being dedicated to the reduction in property taxes, primarily $5.2 million for municipal surplus, $3,450,000 from the electric utility, $300,000 from the water utility, $382,000 from the assessment trust, and $80,000 from the police outside duty. Essentially, we had almost $26 million dedicated and/or encumbered for construction projects.